My girls. So in one of my latest Substacks, I announced that I really want to move to Paris. And you all were so supportive, which I really appreciate. But there were a few comments that were like, Danielle, just go, do it. It does not work like that. It does not work like that, my girls. And today we're going to break down why it is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for me to be able to do so. Because there's a few things kind of against me, both in the legal system, but also with me, myself, and my own capabilities. So let's jump right into it. We're going to break this down. Immigration from the United States to France. Let's go. Okay, so first and foremost, like France doesn't have like a I just want to live here visa. That doesn't really exist. Like there's some very, very small exceptions, but in general, you don't just get to be like, hey, I want to live here, at least forever. You can do like a short term. So let me rewind. As an American, if you have an American passport, you can go over to Paris for up to 90 days in a 1 year period. You can also apply for a long-term stay visa, which you have to renew every single year. That's great. But if I'm actually wanting to like live there for more than a year, it's gonna take a little bit more heavy lifting. And there's a few options and a few things that I need in order to get like a longer term visa that's, more than a year. Number one, I need a job offer from a French employer. And that French employer has to prove that I have more skills, more capabilities, and it will be better at this job than any EU citizen. That's a very difficult thing to do. Now, if you know me, you know that I previously lived in Ireland. It was the easiest, like, visa situation ever. Granted, like it was a little bit slow. Google did everything from start to finish, but that was because I was already at the employer. And so that immigration process from the United States to Ireland was very simple. It's not the same with France. Second way that I can get a visa is by going to a French school or a university. I very much considered fashion school for a short period of time and actually did applications, went through the whole process, all of that. We'll dig into that another day, but I'm not actually looking to go to grad school. I think I'm at a point in my life where I cannot go back to school. I can't do it. The third is through marriage or like reunification with family. I don't have any French family and I have no French suitors at this time, at least not consistent ones. The fourth option is if I'm like self-employed or want to build a business specifically in France. I can somewhat be self-employed because I do consider myself like a consultant for creators. So I could maybe apply for an entrepreneur visa, but I'm not really trying to build my business in France. I'm trying to continue my business in the United States, but live in France. So it's just a little bit different for an entrepreneur visa. And then lastly, there's like a talent passport. And I really think those are for folks who are like in STEM and just have like a really high level of knowledge that's super niche that will be useful for, French society, French government, French economics, that sort of thing. So those are the only ways that I'm able to get over there. And none of them are looking quite, sorry, that was my mother. None of them are looking quite great at the moment. Okay, second overall issue. Your girl knows only a little bit of Duolingo French. And French bureaucracy, it's language locked. They operate under the assumption that if you live here, you speak French. All the visa paperwork, the appointments, the housing contracts, the tax letters, health insurance, almost everything is in French, which was not the case for me when I was living in Dublin. Obviously, everything was in English. They're not trying to accommodate English speakers, and I get that. I'm not here to be like, why isn't more things in English? I'm trying to come to your country. So the fact that I am not proficient in French in the slightest is the second issue here. To piggyback off of that, jobs in Paris usually require French. So like when we're thinking about like workplace communication and HR and meetings and all that, I'm not going to be able to do any of that in French. And as much as I'm like really like upping my Duolingo streak, it's like there's a difference between basic French and like business French. And Duolingo is not teaching me business French. because I haven't gone to, like a French university to be able to learn business French. Another piece of the uphill battle. Number 4, the housing market is absolutely brutal, even for French speakers. You need a French work contract, you need a French bank account, you need a guarantor, you need to be able to negotiate in French. Like, housing is not easy at all whatsoever. So even if I am able to, somehow get over there, then there's the uphill battle of actually finding a place to live, negotiating that, making sure that I'm not, ending up in some crazy place. It would be like if a native French speaker who knew very little English at all whatsoever tried to move to New York and was like negotiating in a place where like it is not for the renter. Like, the landlords are many times like the winner. Everything's scarce and everything's expensive. That would be really difficult. So that's kind of like the battle that I feel like I would have from a housing perspective. I talked a little bit about this in a previous video. The cultural expectations, especially around language, are very different. Like, integration is expected. It's not optional. So speaking French is seen as respect. It's not like a bonus, like, oh, and I speak French. No, that's what you were supposed to do in the first place. And the whole like, I'll learn when I get there, I think especially jobs, they view that really, really skeptically. And it's not because they're hostile. It's just like, it's their different model of how they define like belonging in the country. Like, French language and French culture is important. It's at the forefront. And so I think one thing that they're very against is just specifically Americans coming over and just overrunning everything, making people speak English, changing everything from the way that they've had it for hundreds of years. Paris is just, how do I say this? Really competitive. The jobs are competitive. The apartments are scarce. Administrative delays are very common. As I mentioned, everything in Paris is slow. Everything is slow. The service is slow. The people are slow. The metros are slow. Everything is slow. They do things in their own time. So it's competitive, but also slow at the same time, deeply inefficient, but a lot of that is purposeful. A lot of that is part of the culture. So as like a non-EU foreigner without French, like, I'm really competing at like the hardest level possible. I have every single aspect of this stacked against me. And that doesn't mean that I can't do it. That's like, y'all know me. I'm a Capricorn. I'm an eldest daughter. Like, I can do whatever I set my mind to, but I also have to be very realistic about what I am up against. So I say all of this to say, like, the legal system requires real justification. The daily system assumes French. The job and housing markets are like deeply unforgiving. And then integration into like French society, especially me as like a chaotic American girl, is expected. And it's at the forefront. So it's not impossible, but I have to figure out at least like one strong anchor to get me over there. And that is a job, a degree program, a man, or at least some sort of French skills. Those are the 4 options. That's how that gets me there. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do those. So that's the journey. Now, I'm doing a lot more research. I talked to quite a bit of the expats that live there, but a lot of them are like married to Frenchmen, so it was a little bit different for them. I think there is some sort of visa that can be applicable to folks that are creators or influencers or technically like own their own like content business. That's maybe a little bit different than the one that I was telling you, like the entrepreneurship visa. There's so many different types and you have to just stay on top of everything. But there's like, lots of paths. Like I said, student visa, where I then end up working and then I end up with residency. That's like the most reliable path, but not the easiest, because I really don't want to go back to school. I like making money. Getting into a US company here and then transferring internally, kind of like I did at Google, that's like a Another option, I've mapped all these out. I have it all on my laptop. You know me, I'm a Capricorn. Um, Finding an English language like niche job, but a lot of times those are very like tech forward. And I mean tech in the sense of like software, data, AI, like that sort of thing. And so I'd have to like apply from outside of France, secure the job offer, and then they'd have to like, you know, sponsor my visa. This is hard because a lot of times folks are just like, I'm just going to hire an EU citizen. Why would I go through the process of, going through all the paperwork and the drama of getting somebody over here when I can find someone with the same skills right here? Hard. But that's also why, like, when you think about the United States and you think about a lot of folks that are in tech and are in very niche software, data, AI jobs that were able to get visas here, they're from other places because they have such a high level of knowledge, like, especially across Asia. So it's like, I don't have that equivalent, that like AI knowledge, tech, software engineering, like, that's not what I did at Google. So I don't know that that's necessarily a great option for me. The path with like freelance and like self-employed visa, I think that's probably going to be the one that I'm going to have to figure out. Some people literally do just move over there and say, I'll move there first underneath that like 90 days, or they're able to get like a 1-year tourist visa and they're like, I'll figure it out when I get there. But you cannot work any French jobs on a tourist visa. You cannot. You are not allowed to. So I know at the very least I'd be able to go over there for like a year. It is an option to like go over there and just figure it out and like network your way. You guys know I'm charismatic and I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out. But I think that's just a little bit too risky for me, like as like a 33-year-old, like moving over there, putting myself under the gun for a year to find a job and figure it out and get proficient in France or meet a man or do whatever, you know what I mean? Like that just doesn't feel like my nervous system would be on high alert at all times, and I just don't think that would be good for me. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. I hope that gives you guys the lay of the land of how all of this works. I'm going to be doing a bunch of research and talking to a lot of my friends on my side that live in France to see how they can help, because I do think that it'll help to have like a French eye on things from people who speak French. And then, talking to a lot of my expat friends that are over there and are kind of navigating the job market, which the job market is horrible, just like it's horrible right now in the United States. So I'm gonna figure it out by any means necessary, as I always do, as a Black woman, as a Capricorn, as an eldest daughter, as just who I am in my DNA. If I want to do something, I'm gonna find a way to do it. But I do know the odds are stacked against me. So welcome to this process.